How's it going, everyone? Welcome to my channel. Swanee here, and today I wanted to talk about Helldivers 2 going into 2025. Now, I haven't made a Helldivers video in well over a month now. The developers had their big holiday break. They haven't been as active on social media, and there just hasn't been very much going on this past month with Helldivers 2. Outside the occasional filler major order this past month, the developers they have to be up to something, right? Well, that's what I want to talk about in today's video. Now, I want to quickly take a look back at the success of Helldivers 2 that they had in 2024, and then go over a lot of what we can expect to come in 2025 based on what has been said and hinted at the past 6 months from the developers. So I'm going to be going over a lot of those things today, so consider this to be your slight spoiler warning. If you want to be completely surprised as to what's coming in 2025, then maybe turn away from this video. With that said, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So the first thing I want to go over is the success that Helldivers 2 had in 2024. And if we take a look at this chart here, based off of the United States sales in 2024 with both physical and digital games, Helldivers 2 sat at number 3 for the most sales out of all video games, which is very impressive. I mean, it only lost out to the new Call of Duty, and Call of Duty sells a crap ton every single year, and it lost out to EA Sports College Football 2025, and that game has been much anticipated for forever, for well over 10 years. Sony announced that they're working on a new Helldivers movie, which is pretty crazy. I mean, that alone should tell you the success that Helldivers had if Sony is going all in to the point where they want to make a movie about the game. So Helldivers 2 has definitely had a ton of success in 2024. And then as of very recently, Sony has actually been removing the countrywide restrictions that they put on just months ago. Over 170 different countries couldn't even access the game. And as of recently, they've finally been removing some of those restrictions after months and months of players begging for them to finally fix it. And as you can see here, based off of the Steam files, you can see that they've been removing some of the restrictions. And then as you can see here on Reddit, some people have confirmed that their country now has access to Helldivers 2. So this is a huge step forward for the game. If we can get access to these players in all these different countries to finally get their hands on the game again, we're probably going to see some huge upticks in the player count numbers going forward into 2025. So yeah, it does suck that it did take this long, but it is a good sign to see that this is finally getting changed. And with this getting changed, this means that we will probably, fingers crossed, finally end up getting that review cape that was in the works from months and months and months ago. I know a lot of people have been asking about it ever since they announced it. We have Peelstit, the CCO. He said this in Discord in response to somebody asking about the cape. He says, I wrote about this earlier. Basically, the review cape is waiting for region conclusion. So they've confirmed this a couple different times in the past, where once all this region stuff got figured out, we would then get the review cape. So now that they're finally fixing the review problem, we might be getting that cape pretty soon. So next up, I want to talk about what to expect in 2025, based off of all the leaks from the past year, based off of the things that the developers have said and things that they've hinted at, and just take a couple educated guesses as to what we might see within the next couple months or so, or within the next year or two, because based off of everything we've seen, I think they plan on supporting Helldivers 2 at least for the next year to maybe 2 or 3 years, because I know that the developers said they want to evolve Helldivers 2 into Helldivers 3, so only time will tell, but let's go ahead and jump into the things that we know for almost certain is going to probably show up within the next year. So the first thing that we know for almost certain is that the Illuminate are definitely going to have more enemy types come to the game at some point. Now, based off of everything we know, the first initial wave of the Illuminate was basically just the scouting party. They definitely didn't send their full force. If we take a look back at Helldivers 1, there's a number of different enemy types that were in that game that just didn't make it into this game. And based off of the leaks, there are a ton of different enemy types that were in the leaked files from months ago that just haven't quite made it into the game yet. So let's go over a few of those real quick. So based off of this in the Helldivers leaks, this was over 6 months ago. So obviously some of these units have already made it into the game. They just have different names, but there's a lot of these units that were in the files that just haven't fully made it yet. So we have the Observer, the Illuminate Scout unit. So they're obviously already in the game. We have the Ghoul. This is a melee unit appearing as a mutated savage Illuminate who attacks with claws. Early leaks had them as a large monster comparable to a Hulk, but later ones indicated that this has been changed to infantry size. So this might actually have turned into the Voteless. There's a pretty high chance that the Ghoul is now the Voteless. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see there. There's the Adept, also referred to as the Mage, that hovers and presumably has some sort of nanite / mind control abilities. That was also in Helldivers 1. There's the Outcast, a hooded infantry unit equipped with a beam gauntlet. I've seen a couple pictures of this unit. Now, I can't show them because they've kind of been wiped from the internet. A lot of the leaks have been copyright claimed. Some of the leaks that I'm going to show you guys in today's video have been just completely erased from the internet. You know, obviously take all these leaks with a grain of salt. There's the Summoner. There's another caster unit. This one seems to be a step up from the Adept that wields a gauntlet lined with crystals, and they can levitate. There's the Tripod, which ended up being the Harvesters. There's the Tripod Mark II, which is probably just an upgraded Harvester. There's the Council Member, a robed Illuminate sitting in a hover chair that was also in Helldivers 1. There's the Guy, which is a heavily armored Illuminate infantry wielding a staff. This ended up being the Overseers. And then there's the Obelisk, a heavily armored robot tank unit from Helldivers 1, and it can teleport around, and it has different projectiles and shielded walls and stuff. So a lot of these ended up getting changed. Obviously, some of these units might not make it into the game ever. At some point in time, either they completely scrap them, or they're just waiting to release the remainder of these units when the Illuminate send their full-out attack through the black hole, and then, you know, that's when we will get to face off against the full might of the Illuminate forces. And then if we take a look at user Iron Sights over on Twitter, Iron Sights is a well-known leaker. They have leaked tons of stuff for Helldivers 2 in the past. They actually had a bunch of different pictures of these Illuminate units, and then as you can see, they have been taken down for copyright notices. This was a picture of the Illuminate Obelisk, and it got taken down. Then there was another leak of the Illuminate Guy staff fake, whatever that means, and whatever this image was also taken down for copyright. And then there was the Illuminate Summoner, who had that gauntlet, who could summon more units and stuff, and he could like fly around and shoot lightning. He was also taken down. So there's a number of different images out there that were just completely wiped from the internet. So it's definitely interesting to see that there's still a ton of Illuminate that could be lurking on the other side of that black hole. So the next thing that we can probably expect to come to Helldivers 2 in 2025 is DLSS support. Now, a lot of people on PC have been asking for this basically since the game's launch. PC performance has been very hit and miss. It obviously depends on your graphics card, but you know, especially when there's a ton of enemies and after some of those major updates, the game can lag, sometimes crash, depending on what you're playing. I know as soon as the Illuminate came out and having all those Voteless on screen, it made the game very unstable for me, and I have a 3090 Ti and my game was struggling. So DLSS support is a huge thing that people have been requesting. As we can see here from Iron Sights, it was leaked back earlier this month that DLSS is actually kind of in the game. It just hasn't been worked on and it hasn't fully been implemented yet. So it's kind of there. It's just not, you know, it's not active, but it's something that they're considering working on, because if we take a look here, back in December, Shams Georgiani, the CEO, responded to somebody saying, in the future, is DLSS or FSR3 a viable option? And he responded saying, it's totally doable, and PlayStation has been pleading with us to add it. So the fact that it's in the game files and Sony really wants them to add it, I think it's more than likely that we're going to get some DLSS support in the future, which is going to be a huge plus to anyone that plays this game on PC. I know some people don't like DLSS, they don't like the frame generation, and it can make your screen look a little too smooth in some places, and it does look a little wonky, but I would much rather turn it on and get those couple bumps in FPS than, you know, having the game crash or having the game lag and stutter. So I'm super excited for this, and I definitely hope that DLSS comes in 2025. So the next thing we can expect to see come sometime, hopefully in 2025, if not maybe in 2026, is pre-saved loadouts. Now, people have been asking for this since launch. I see it all the time in my comment section and on Reddit and on Discord, and there's been a couple of different times that the developers have actually responded to this. If we take a look at Peelstit, he responded back in August Somebody said pre-saved loadouts, and he said, yes, it's in the works somewhere. So it's been in the works as of August, so that's pretty reassuring. Then there was another response back in December that says, yes, it needs to happen. The reason we down prioritized it around launch was because we wanted players to consider their friends' loadouts. So saving your favorite loadouts and having probably multiple to choose from, that would be a huge quality of life change. There's been a number of different times where I just want to, it's a Automaton planet or it's an Illuminate planet. I have a go-to loadout. Being able to just save whatever loadout I want and just quickly pick it, depending on the planet and depending on what faction I'm facing, that would be a huge help. So hopefully we see that come to the game sooner rather than later. So the next thing I want to go over has been brought up by the developers on a number of different occasions, so it's probably being worked on as of this moment, and it's weapon customization. If we take a look at this post back in August from Pielstit, he says, I think we need weapon upgrades and customization to be able to tailor playstyles for advanced divers. Then we had this post where somebody was asking about customization, and he said, yes, customization is an active discussion. That was back in August. Then there was this post also back in August where he says, yes, we are looking at customization. So there was 3 different times where he responded to people in the community about customizations for your weapons. Then there was this post about a month ago on Reddit where it says, would you like to see more weapon stats in the game? And Pielstit responded just saying yes. Then there was this post over a month ago complaining about how you can't spend requisition points on basically anything, and it's pretty much just a useless currency. And this post was basically just going on saying that they'd like to use their requisition points or the super credits for support weapons or, stratagem cooldowns, just different things that they could spend their points on. And Pielstit responded saying, haha, a shooter without weapon customization is pretty lame, smiley face. So there's obviously been a number of different times where the developers have just straight up hinted or said that they're talking about weapon customization. But if that's not enough, if we head over to the Helldivers leaks from over 10 months ago, there was a full weapon customization system leak. And this was found in the files, weapon assist, reload components, weapon attachments, and different things of that nature. Then if we head back over to Iron Sights on January 6th, there was new weapon customization options that were added to the files that did get copyright claims, so they've been taken down. He says, yep, looks like weapon customization is being worked on. It's still very buggy at the moment, and I'm working to duct taping it back together. And then he said, here's a little showcase using a drum mag on the Diligence. And then obviously that photo was taken down. Then there was another post by him saying, this is a leak. The attachment system now has a UI, so they added a user interface to the attachments. Then there's another post on January 6th saying, here are some of the icons used in the attachments menu that are still broken. Weapon skins are also here. I'll do a more in-depth post later on, and then both of those images were taken down for copyright. Then on January 16th, we have this leak from Iron Sights that does a showcase of different weapon skins for a variety of different weapons. There was Black, Forest, Arctic, Desert, and Venus. And then in that video, they showcase all of the different skins. I'm not going to show that because, I don't want it copyright struck. Then there was this post where it said there is a weapon skin for the AC-8 autocannon. So it's looking like some stratagems might get some weapon skins as well. So I would say in general, it looks like they're trying to add not only weapon attachments like scopes, silencers, different magazines, and stuff like that. They're also looking into adding weapon skins as well. So you can change not only the way that your weapon looks, but the way that your weapon performs. So I would expect in 2025, we might get some sort of complete customization overhaul for your weapons. So the next thing we can probably expect to see in 2025 is some sort of way to spend our resources. Now, this has been a huge complaint since launch. A lot of people hit that cap with their samples and their medals and their requisition slips, and then there's just nothing else to do, and then the game kind of gets stale. All you have left to do is just play the game. You have nothing to really strive for. So I know the developers are actively looking for different ways that we can spend our currency. They tried it out with the DSS, the Democracy Space Station, and it didn't really work out as planned. A lot of people don't like the DSS. It's kind of dumb, and it kind of feels like you're just wasting your resources if you spend it on that. It doesn't feel that fulfilling. So the developers have hinted in a number of different ways that they're looking into finding different ways for us to spend these currencies. If we take a look here, the game director over on Discord said that we're looking into other venues of spending different currencies, and he said that back on January 14th. Then we have this post over a month ago on Reddit where Peelstit said we are discussing consumable upgrades for stratagems where you spend samples and or requisitions to upgrade a stratagem to get a number of uses for it that are more powerful, and when you run out of them, it returns to the normal power level. So they're looking at temporary upgrades to stratagems by spending your resources, your samples, or your requisition points, and then we get some sort of upgraded stratagem. Who knows if that means you get like a buff turret and it shoots faster or has more ammo, or maybe your stalwart will come into the battlefield with more ammo or does additional damage. Who knows what this might mean, but I think this is a really good idea. Being able to spend your samples to get a temporary buff to any of your stratagems, let's say the orbital laser strike, and you spend some samples, you upgrade it, and then it lasts twice as long, or maybe you get to call in more of them throughout the battle, or you spend your samples and you get an upgraded mech, and maybe you get 3 mechs per match instead of 2. There's a number of different ways that they could get this to work, and I think this is a great idea, and hopefully this is something that we see come to the game in 2025, because the sample management and having maxed out currencies all the time just isn't really that fun. And, with them getting the game finally balanced in a good state, now that they're fully focused on making content for the game, I feel like this is definitely something that we could expect to see coming later this year. Now, next up is something that we might not see come in 2025, but I definitely feel like the developers are working on this behind the scenes because it's been brought up so many different times in the community, and the developers have responded to it a handful of different times. And it's miniguns. People have been wanting a minigun forever. Like, as soon as the game came out, people were like, hey, it'd be cool? A freaking minigun. We have the autocannon with the backpack. Give me a backpack with a belt-fed minigun, and I can just unload on things. Now, the developers have brought this up, and they've responded to this a number of different times. Peelstit has straight up asked the community, like, hey, what are some ideas to, actually get this to work in a realistic fashion? And he's interacted with comments, he's responded, people have given him feedback, he's liked some of the feedback, and this has just been brought up so many different times. I feel like the developers, there's no way that they can ignore this. If you just take a look at some of the responses he's had to the community, the developers are 100% aware that the community wants this feature to be added as a stratagem, and it's just, it's been talked about so many times at this point, I feel like there's no way we aren't going to get a minigun in some way, shape, or form, either in 2025, maybe 2026, but in some point going forward down the road. I know it, I can feel it in my bones. Based off of how many times they've responded to this, I feel like we're definitely going to get a minigun. And then next up on this list, it might be a little obvious to some of you, but we of course are going to get more crossover events. This has been talked about a number of different times. They want to do crossover events. There was the big controversy that they had with the last crossover event with Killzone, but since then, they've definitely taken the community feedback. I'm pretty sure they now know not to do it with the Superstore going forward, or if they do, they're going to completely change the way that the Superstore works. I feel like that they're going to make future crossover events probably show up as war bonds in the future. And with all the pushback that they had, they responded a number of different times to people in the community. They released the core tenets talking about future crossover events and the rules and how they look at crossovers. They don't want it to be too lore breaking. They want future crossover events to kind of be lore accurate and feel like they fit well with the Helldivers universe. And then they confirmed that they're not going to have anything goofy or wacky like Fortnite does. You're not going to see Goku running around in Helldivers. They're going to stick with military themed crossover events. So we're definitely going to get more crossovers in 2025. So the last couple of things I want to talk about in today's video are just sort of things that the developers mentioned in passing. They maybe talked about them here or there and briefly brought them up once or twice. These aren't in any particular order, but the first thing I want to mention are arc grenades. Somebody asked about arc grenades, and Peelstit responded saying, "You will have arc grenades, and I will deliver them to you." Now, this is in response to a Palpatine meme. He could be just joking here, but I feel like based off of in the past, we got the gas grenades. I feel like it's pretty likely that we're going to see some arc grenades as well. Then up next, we have a response from the game director earlier this month. Somebody asked about a rework for the Galactic War and the Galactic War map. He says, yes, we're improving it to account for more Galactic War future editions, so things are being worked on. It'll take some time, but we'll get there. So I feel like we're going to get some sort of revamp to just how that whole system works. Right now, the war map is really confusing to a lot of players. They don't really explain supply lines, and they don't tell you what planets need to be prioritized, so I feel like that'll definitely get worked on in 2025. Up next, this was back in August. Somebody asked if we're going to get more emplacements, and Peelstit said, oh my god, yes, it's so cool. We only have one emplacement, but more are coming. Now, since this post, we got the anti-tank emplacement, but I feel like we're definitely going to see a couple more emplacements in 2025, especially since they're so loved in the community and they're really badass. So definitely expect more of those to probably come this year. Then we have this post in regards to adding more difficulties. Now, this has been brought up a number of different times in the community. Somebody said, do you think releasing a difficulty 11 or higher would be something that we see in the near future? And the game director responded saying, we are discussing ways to increase the difficulty for players that want that extra challenge. There's plenty of different avenues to take with this, so there's a lot of flexibility, including higher CRs. So do keep an eye out, maybe not in the near future though. So they're definitely working on harder difficulties. We just probably won't see them anytime soon, maybe later on in the year. Then we had this post back in August saying platoon system soon, and Peelstit responded saying, I don't know the status of it, we'll check. So it's definitely being worked on as of back in August. And then this is a very small one, but it has to do with the FRV vehicle. Somebody asked, hey, can we store things in the vehicle like barrels or different objective items and stuff? And Peelstit responded saying, damn, we forgot about this. Yes, you're right. It was supposed to be cut for now, but should probably make a return. So at some point in the future, we're probably going to get some sort of update for the vehicle where we can store objective items. So if you're a solo player and you need to put something in the vehicle, or if you want to load your vehicle up with explosive barrels and then like suicide bomb yourself into a group of enemies, I feel like that's going to be a possibility. So that's going to do it for everything in today's video, guys. I can just feel that 2025 is going to be a massive year for Helldivers 2 based off of everything that we just went over, and I cannot wait to cover it and make videos for you guys going over everything as it comes out. And yeah, thank you so much for watching and making it this far into the video. Consider giving me a thumbs up because it's greatly appreciated. It helps me out in the algorithm, helps show my channel to new Helldivers and stuff. And subscribe if you're new here, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. So bye-bye.